stars. And what does it say? Mishtachavim li. It doesn't say they bow. Joseph is the speaker. He's telling of his dream. He doesn't say that they bow down to something that symbolizes Joseph. They bowed down to me. That's fascinating. That the first dream is a dream where Joseph remains a symbol. They're bowing to the symbol. You don't even know if it's Joseph. You assume it's Joseph. The second dream, they're bowing down to Joseph. Or let me give you another difference. Maybe, yes, Ruby, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think it's significant that in the first one it's earthbound. It's here on earth, and the second one is heavenly bound. So we're to interpret it. I think that Joseph is being bound from all sides, not just from the land, not just from the people, but also from the heavens. They're opposites in a way, and yet that he's being bound by both.
It's a great point. But right. I think the dreams are fundamentally, one dream, of course, is earthly, and the other one is heavenly. Excellent.
But
yes,
maybe,
please.
But maybe if Joseph were interpreting them, he would say, since he is the great interpreter of dreams, I will be helping you through the land, because he helped them with the food. And as a result, all of you, including our parents, will be saved by me and thank me. But maybe that could have been his interpretation. But we don't know that. We only hear what the brothers say.
Right. I want to take that point, Tova, and present how many commentators look at biblical dreams. It relates to what you're saying, and it relates to what Ruby said as well. And that is the following. They see dreams as being prophetic in nature. It's an expression of nevi'ut, of prophecy. And I go so far as to say that it's almost to the point that the dreamer, if understanding the dream, ought to do everything she or he can to see to it that that prophecy be realized. So let me put out there for a moment, let me speak for about 3 minutes now, the Nachmanides approach. It's one of 3 approaches that we want to talk about this morning. And actually, the second approach is really touching upon what you articulated. The first, what Tova was beautifully talking about. Ramban says, let's pick it up in chapter 42, sentence 9. So in chapter 42, sentence 9, there's a famine. Jacob sends his sons, the brothers, to the land because there was a famine. They needed food. And what does the Torah say? The Torah says the following. They appear before Joseph. Vayaker Yosef et Echav, sentence 8. And Joseph, who is dressed as the second to the king, recognizes his brethren, Vehem lo hikiruhu, but they did not realize it. Now, obviously, when they had come to see Joseph, I'm now going back a few sentences before, it says that they came to Egypt. Vayavohu b'nei Yisrael, the sons of Israel, of Jacob, came because of the famine. The Yosef hu hashavit. Yosef was the ruler. He was right at the gates. And the brothers come in and they bow to Joseph. And Yosef sees his brethren and recognizes them, but he doesn't reveal himself to his brothers, and he speaks in strong terms to Yosef. And the Bible surmises, puts it in a summary. Yosef recognizes them. They did not recognize Yosef. Then the sentence says, Vayiskor Yosef et hachalomot. And Joseph remembered his dreams. Asher cholam lohem. Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them. Now, Vayiskor Yosef et hachalomot asher cholam lohem. So the great Rashi actually says that he remembered the dream, v'yada shenitkaimu, shaharei hishtachavu lo, and he knew that they were fulfilled because they bowed to him. The sheaves were bowing to his sheaf, the sun and the moon and the stars were bowing to his sheaf. Now Rashi is the 11th century. Listen to what Nachmanides, who's born almost 100 years after Rashi dies, he quotes Rashi, but he disagrees with Rashi. He says the following. Now, I'm kind of altering Ramban a little bit, cutting through some of the red tape, but this is basically it. He says that Joseph saw them bowing to him, and he recognized that his first dream was fulfilled, but his second dream had not yet been fulfilled. I want to repeat that. What did he know? He knew that the first dream was fulfilled, but the second wasn't. Now I want to say something tangential. Another difference in the dreams is that only the second dream included a number. In the first dream, he says, behold, we are all binding our sheaves. Who's the we? Now, one has to remember that Benjamin was a Yeled Shashuim. He was really the youngest, and he was much younger than Joseph. Much younger than Joseph. Sort of all the other brothers, all of the 10, because there's Benjamin and Joseph born from Rachel. They were the last two to be born, but Joseph was born appreciably before Benjamin. And in the second dream, it doesn't say we were, but it says, and behold, the sun and the moon and 11 stars bow down to me. So follow me for a moment. This is Nachmanides. Says Nachmanides, he saw the prophetic realization of the first dream. Because in the first dream, he dreamt that we were binding sheaves. Now, Nachmanides assumes that he was speaking to his he was speaking to his 10 older brothers. He was not speaking to Benjamin. Benjamin was not part of that group. He was too young. He was speaking to his 10 older brothers with whom he had real problems. He had no problems with Benjamin. And he remembers in the dream that the 10 brothers bowed not to him, but to his sheaf, to his sheaf. What's the singular? Whatever the singular is, I think it's sheaf. And at that point, while Joseph recognized them, they didn't know they were bowing to Joseph. It's an ingenious concept. They bowed, basically, and this a bit touches on what Ruby was saying, what Tova was saying. It's a dream of sheaves. They needed food, but they weren't bowing to Joseph per se. They didn't know it was Joseph. They were bowing to the symbol of Joseph, not knowing it was Joseph, to the sheaf, because Joseph was divvying out food. So Joseph realizes, wait a minute. He viewed the dream as prophetic, and he saw the first dream as being fulfilled. And he says, wait a minute, I have to maneuver to see to it that the second dream is fulfilled. And Nachmanides argues that that's why he maneuvers that they go back and they bring Benjamin. And not only that they bring Benjamin, but ultimately, not only Benjamin comes, but who else comes? Jacob is going to come, and Jacob's wives are going to come. And that's the realization of the second dream. The second dream is that the sun is the symbol of Jacob, it's patriarchal. The moon is the symbol not of Rachel. Rachel, unfortunately, has already died. It's the symbol of Jacob's wives, maybe of Bilhah, who was second to Rachel. She was her handmaid, but according to Nachmanides, actually treated not as a handmaid, God forbid, but as an equal wife. And so they came, and the 11 brothers came too. Benjamin was there and bowed to him. And then he says something unbelievable. He says, and I'm quoting from Nachmanides, with this, first of all, let me summarize again. He sees them coming down, bowing to him, not recognizing who he is. The first dream was fulfilled. He therefore then maneuvers, because he feels the responsibility to help the second dream come true. So he maneuvers it so that ultimately Benjamin with the brothers bow to him, with Jacob and his wives, the sun and the moon and the number 11. The 11 bow down, not to a symbol of Joseph, but to Joseph, bowing in the sense of recognizing that he was second to the king in Egypt. Then Nachmanides says, with this understanding, in other words, that namely that Joseph felt compelled to have his dreams fulfilled exactly and in sequence, Ramban resolves another difficulty with our narrative. He writes, were it not with this insight, Joseph would have committed a great sin in causing grief to his father. Keeping him in bereavement and mourning over Simeon and over himself. In other words, Nachmanides is dealing with the question, if Joseph becomes second to the king, wait a minute. Why doesn't he send a communication to his father? How far is Egypt? We know where Egypt is. It's where present Egypt is, from Beersheba, or wherever he was, from Hebron. It's okay, it'll take a couple of days, but Yosef had under his control so many legions who could have gone out very simply. And he doesn't connect with them he doesn't connect with his father to let his father know he was alive. And then he continues. And even if you would say that his desire was to pain his brothers a little for what they had done to him, how could he not have pity on his father suffering in older and older age? Okay, so maybe he wanted to cause his brothers mental anguish. But Nachmanides says, okay, but what about his father who is causing so much mental anguish to his father? Listen to this line. Rather, he did everything well in its proper time in order to fulfill the dreams, for he knew that they would surely be fulfilled. This is, one could look at this as being too fundamentalist, and I debated whether to present it, but I think it's important because it's said by Nachmanides, and there are such presentations, and there certainly is a larger look at dreams as being a nevuah, like the butler and the baker's dreams, once that they were interpreted. They're prophetic dreams that in the end the baker would die. I'm talking about the dreams in prison that Joseph interpreted, and the butler would be returned to his post. I want to stop here before I enter into a second observation and take it from a very, very more different perspective in terms of what dreams are. Anyone just on this? Any thoughts? Julie, if you can recognize.
Looks like Ellen. I'm gonna unmute her. Oh, she.
Okay, I did.
Thank you, Ellen.
I just question the concept of prophetic dreams. If something is prophetic, then how can you maneuver to make it happen? You know, then it's not prophetic anymore. Then it's okay. This is what I wanted to have happen, and so I did it.
Right. There are commentaries on Nachmanides who say something like, in the Bible, again, let's try, Ellen, to go into the thinking of these thinkers going all the way back. There is an idea that no human effort could thwart a divine decree. Now, one could say a lot about this because there are a lot of different approaches that human effort can even thwart a divine decree. But looking at it in this fundamental way, given that no human effort could thwart a divine decree, well, what Joseph may have felt is that, on the contrary, he should do everything possible to hasten its fulfillment. So says the Zichron Yitzchak. It's quoted here in the Art Scroll. Now, given that's a very fundamentalist approach, but Joseph, he had this dream. He felt no matter what he does, it's going to happen. So let me make it happen, and let me make it happen quickly. Once he sees the opening, so he steps into that opening and he tries to maneuver it in such a way that that second dream will be fulfilled as well. I don't want to confuse you, but there are even those, and this could be Ramban, who says that when they first bowed to him, he even felt that his first dream wasn't fulfilled. So he set out to make sure that both dreams would be fulfilled. And if you remember the narrative, I don't want to get too confusing, he maneuvers it first that all of them, now according to Nachmanides, the all of them is all 11, the sheaves. With Benjamin, they come back and they all bow to Joseph, to his sheaf. They still don't recognize him. And it's only afterwards that the second dream is fulfilled, when Jacob and his wives come down, and with the brothers, they acknowledge who Joseph is. But I wanted to say that more simply. That's why I elaborated upon it as I did originally. But I'll take one more comment, and then I want to jump into just a whole second approach so that we move away from this observation, although it's good. But Estelle, I see, is Estelle's hand up? I can't.
Yeah, I want to ask a question.
Yes.
The only way we know of these dreams is what Joseph says, right? I mean, otherwise, how would they know it's a dream? I mean, nobody else had read. Well, is it possible that Joseph may have elaborated and you know, we're assuming that all of this happened because they believed Joseph's dream. He could have been elaborating. Maybe he was sort of making it up. Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's Tova touched on that. Again, I know I'm mentioning Tova's name a lot, which I don't mind at all. But let me mention just a second approach, and there's even a third approach. The second approach is that when we dream, our defenses are down. We're not fully in control. The rabbis say you can really tell a person when a person drinks. When you drink, the masks are off, the screens are off. So when we dream, our defenses are down, and at times we reveal more of ourselves. From this particular approach, dreams can reveal what what we're really about, what our aspirations are, what our mission in life is all about, what our dreams are all about. So let me step back for a moment. You've often heard me say ad nauseum we often speak of the word covenant. Covenant is a contract. It's a contract between the human being and God. Sometimes the covenant is universal. The covenant of the rainbow after the flood, which was given to all of humankind. And then there's a covenant particularistically given to the Jewish people. Now, whenever there is covenant in the book of Genesis, speaking to the Jewish people, covenantal agreements must include land and children. It always includes land, the land of Israel, Eretz Israel, and children. Why is that so? And we've often framed it this way. Let's think about America. What is America all about? Well, America is about, it's a dream. You know, I have we just had it in the Daf Yomi about words, about English words and English names. The way the Daf Yomi presents it in a very narrow way, they say every language has fragments of Hebrew. It's unbelievable, but that's what they say. And certainly the Talmud in Megillah, which is the next tractate to be studied in the Daf Yomi, they write out all the Persian names in the Esther story, the Purim story. They write it out in Hebrew, and looking at it in Hebrew, they try to break it down. So when one looks at the word America, I think the word is a Native American word, I think. But when I write it out, America, it's Aleph, Mem, Resh, Kuf, Hey, Omar, Ka. The Lord said. It's like, I know there's a separation of church and state, but the Lord is America, Omar Ka. It's a mission. And of course, we all know that the Constitution and so much of the founding fathers, I wish they were mothers as well, so much of the dream of America, it gleaned from Jewish sources. There's a mission of America. My teacher at New York University, when I was studying for religion, I was studying for a doctorate. I'm actually ABD, which means all but the doctorate, all but writing. Maybe it's called ABW, all but dissertation. That's the ABD. My father said, come on, you should have taken your first book, Women at Prayer. That could have been your dissertation. All right, that's going to have to be in another world. I'm not going to get the doctorate. But he always used to say, Dr. Moran, who was a linguist, he always used to say, just remember there's a difference between the United States and America. The United States is a country with all its attendant problems, with racism and sexism and violence and racial conflict. America, that's the dream. That's the dream. And I remember calling him after 9/11 and I said, Gabe, I've got proof you're right. All of the patriotic songs, they don't have United States in the song. It's always America, America, God bless America. America's the dream, Omaka. So there's a mission. But as we all know, with the mission comes manifest destiny. You need a land. From where will the mission be expounded? From where will it come? And of course, we're all aware of what's going on the southern border, whatever one's politics, whatever one feels. There's a lot of discussion of people, of children, the dreamers, who is considered in America, who has residency, who has a green card, who has citizenship. And I think America got it from the covenantal idea in the Torah. In the Torah, covenant is always associated with land and children. Another way of saying children is people. No matter how old we are, we're children. When I turned 70 and my father was still alive, And he used to give me a blessing. He used to look into my eyes and say, how is my little boy doing? We're all children in the end. And so Joseph has a dream. And I first heard this from the great Rabbi Menachem Leibtak, who has been teaching Tanakh forever. He lives and teaches in Yeshivat Har Etzion. He says, if we listen closely to Joseph's dreams, the way he presented it, the brothers had a lot to be concerned about. Because what does he dream about? His first dream is about land. And when the brothers hear this, they get a little concerned. Wait a minute. Land is a piece of the covenant. What is he saying? Is he saying that the covenant is his? We're going to bow to his land, to his sheaf? We're not part of the covenant? Goodness, is he saying that we're going to be like Ishmael of old, who didn't make it into the covenantal continuity? It was Yitzchak or Esau. He didn't make it in. Jacob made it. They're concerned. They're very concerned. And then he has a second dream. And what is the second dream about? He's dreaming of stars. And in the book of Genesis, what are the stars metaphors of? When Abraham enters into the Brit Ben Abtarim, the covenant of the pieces, God says to Abraham, Habita na hashamayma, look to the heavens, uspor hakochavim, count the stars, into chalis porotam. I don't think he meant it quantitatively, but qualitatively. Can you count them? Each is so beautiful and important. So the stars in Genesis, and this is not a push, is representative of children. So what is Joseph dreaming of? He's dreaming of land and children. And then the Torah says, it's not just that they were jealous of Joseph. Let's take a look at this. I'm going back to chapter 37. Look at the emotional reaction of the brothers. After his first dreams, it says that they hated him. Okay. After the second dream, then it says they were jealous of him. Very different. Because by the second dream, it was not just a hatred. The jealousy was, oh my God, he's saying he is going to be the fourth patriarch. And we will not be part of the patriarchal continuity. They didn't know, by the way, that with the birth of children to Jacob, it would no longer be that one is in and the other is out, because in the end, all of the children of Jacob were part of the continuity. There are only 3 patriarchs. And so this dream revealed what was happening in Joseph's deepest heart and soul. It revealed that he wanted to be the ruler. And that's where the brothers took exception. They take exception, and according to the Seferno, who was a 15th, he is born in 1475, died in 1550, from Italy. He was a universalist. According to the Seferno, the brothers, this is dangerous stuff to say in contemporary times, with the assassination of the Prime Minister of Israel and the greatest act of Chilul Hashem, the brothers saw Joseph as a kind of rodef, as a pursuer. If A is pursuing B to do B harm, B can stop A. They saw Joseph as a pursuer, taking away their covenantal rights. And therefore, he says, well, what they did is not justifiable. It gives you an understanding of what's happening. But for us, our second approach to dreams is not that dreams are, in a fundamentalist way, prophetic in nature, but the dream expresses what's in our inner souls, our inner hearts. I want to stop here, and Julie sent me a message that who's?
Bert wants to say something, and so does Tova. So
Okay.
I guess Bert,
Please.
Bert's hand was up first.
I'm taking notes. We're going to hear. And then I have one more approach of Rabbi Soloveitchik, which is absolutely gorgeous. Please,
This
Bert.
is not quite on your point, but it's sort of the reverse of something you were saying. One of the reasons that Yosef didn't make contact with his father and other people is because he assumed that he was not part of the covenant and he was not the one that was chosen. This is not my thought. I got this from Shmuel Golden, who probably got it from someone else. So that's why he said, listen, there's one person who's chosen in every generation. Here I'm in Egypt. I'm not the chosen one.
Right. So what, he felt rejected, Bert?
But yeah, he felt rejected. Nobody came to find him. Nobody. And stuff like that. And so he felt as though that he was not part of the. He was not part of the covenant.
There's a lot of history to that, Bert. When you think about it, Cain does wrong. Cain is rejected. Ishmael is perceived as doing wrong. He's expelled. Esau also. By the way, maybe that's what Isaac felt when he was sent to Moriah. Maybe he also felt on some level expelled. And maybe that's a very, very good point that you're making.
But you should just know this one quick thing is that
Yes.
Shmuel Golden says, the title of his thing is clever. Why didn't Yosef write home? And
I'm sorry,
so,
Bert.
he says, why didn't Yosef write home?
Bert, you're fading in and fading out.
Well, Shmuel Golden calls this particular thing. Why didn't he write home? He was, a king, could have sent the message. And he said, the answer is because he felt he was not the covenantal choice.
Right. I can't help myself back, just anecdotally, tangentially. My father used to say that life is like, do you remember the old postcards? As my father got older, he used to say, life is like a postcard. Do you remember the postcards? They had a picture on one side, and on the other side, half of the card was where you wrote the address, and the other half is where you wrote down. So my father used to say, did you ever see the way someone writes on a postcard? When they write on a postcard at the beginning, dear son, dear daughter, dear Abba, dear Ima. And at first, the letters are legible. Then as you're getting down to the bottom, suddenly the letters are getting smaller and smaller and tinier because you want to get it all in. And then you're moving the letters and they're kind of moving it to the side and they appear going vertically instead of horizontally. He used to say that's what life is. As you get older and recognize no one's going to live forever, you keep trying to squeeze it in. You keep trying to. Just thought I would mention that. But Joseph, all he had to do was say, Dad, I'm alive. I'm in Egypt. Come down. And he did it. Tova, yes. Yes, Tova, you have to unmute.
Yeah.
As usual, after hearing you, I see this whole thing completely differently. When
I love that. I love it, Tova.
when Joseph had those first dreams, at that time, he was just an arrogant teenager, the favorite of his father, hated by the brothers. He was not an interpreter of dreams. And he had these dreams. The brothers hated him anyway. That's definitely the way they would look at those dreams. It just added fuel to the rage. Then, when in Egypt, he became an interpreter of dreams. And when the brothers came in and bowed down to him at the gates, not recognizing him, then he thought back on that dream. And he said, maybe this is an interpretation. This is a fulfillment of that first dream. And there was also the second dream. And
Yeah.
then, but when he thinks about the second dream and the sun and the moon are coming with the others, he says, I didn't contact my father because he was the one who sent me out in danger to my brothers. And I made a place for myself
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have anything to do with those brothers or my father. And now he said, hey, maybe that second dream was that I have to contact the father and the brothers and help them. The second dream could not absolutely come true because his mother, the moon, was not there anymore.
Right.
But maybe he gave thought to it.
Right.
Because otherwise, why not contact his father? He was
Right.
angry with his father and very angry with the brothers. And they say there is one Mefarech that says, but Yitzchak knew that he was alive.
Right. Just jotting down. Yeah. Look, this
Rabbi,
is
nevertheless, the first thing he asked them was, is his father well? Is his father all right? That's the first question he asked the brothers.
right.
Because
Right.
he realizes that the dream is there, that he
Right.
has to do something for them. Now he's
Let me
an
just-
interpreter
thank you.
of things.
Let me just end by sharing with you. Thank you. Thank you all. Let me just a third approach. And the third approach, the second approach is that dreams reveal much about ourselves. It reveals what's in our deepest parts. So we have a prophetic approach, we have a revelatory approach. The third approach that Rabbi Soloveitchik takes is a psychological approach. That often dreams could represent, on its two extremes, two different types of people. There is one person who dreams about the world as it could be, dreams about new horizons, that there's going to be a newness to the world that we should prepare for, always looking into the future. And the other is those who psychologically dream out of concern that what they have, they will lose. So listen to what he says. This is what he says. What, in truth, had disturbed Joseph's peace of mind? In regard to such matters, our sages have said, a person's dreams bespeak his innermost thoughts and feelings. Now he's going to present Joseph and contrast it to his brothers. Joseph saw himself and his brothers in an alien environment, far from the land of Israel of Canaan, in new circumstances and under new conditions of life. In his dream, he saw, behold, we are binding sheaves. We are no longer in Canaan. We are in the land of Egypt and can no longer be shepherds. Perhaps one can add, maybe he even saw himself in the land of Israel. We're no longer able to only be shepherds, we'll be farmers. We are integrated into a new economy with new styles of living, characteristics, and laws. We can no longer support ourselves by pasturing sheep. The sons of Jacob have to learn new occupations such as farming. I mean, farming was pretty much alien in the book of Genesis. It's mentioned in passing with Isaac and so on, maybe Cain and Abel, but it's in passing. Basically, Genesis, the occupation was shepherds. So Joseph dreamt of a new day. He dreamt of the time when it's a shir chadash, a new song. It'll be a new world. It's going to be the world when we're binding sheaves. Basically, he dreamt, I'm reading now, of a new framework within which the unity of the family could be preserved, even in the far places where the creator of the universe would scatter them. His constant preoccupation was the continuation of Abraham's tradition amidst a new economic structure and civilization. And the second dream, he dreams, we're not only going to be dreaming about the earth, we're going to be dreaming about the heavens. It'll be, as my parents would say, a neue Welt. It's going to be a new world, the Americas, the neue Welt. That's what they used to say in Europe, where rabbis said, don't go to America, you'll assimilate. And others would say, no, that's the golden Medina, that's the neue Welt. And the Zionists were saying, Israel, that's going to be the neue Welt. That will be the place where we can be sovereign. The brothers, remember, Rabbi Soloveitchik, the genius that he is, he was a genius in understanding the human condition. Most contemporary philosophers talk about God. Now, Soloveitchik, Rabbi Soloveitchik, believed in God deeply. He didn't talk about that. He wrote halachic man in the generic sense. He wrote halachic mind. He wrote the lonely man of faith. His writings, Lonely Man of Faith, are studied in the most advanced doctorate programs of psychology. In the most advanced programs, not only in divinity schools, in Notre Dame and elsewhere, but he studied as almost as a psychological text. And he says that from a psychological perspective, Joseph dreamt of this new world, but the brothers did not understand it. For they looked upon the future as a continuation of the present. They perceived all problems from within the framework of their life in Canaan, the land of their fathers' wanderings, in the traditional surroundings, in the thoroughly familiar habitat of the patriarchs. They did not need new frameworks or novel economic methods. But Joseph was different. Joseph was dreaming of a new day, and therefore he said, we have to prepare for that new day. While the brothers said, be careful. If that's what you're going to be focusing on, even what we have, we will quite possibly lose. We live our lives. We're already living in holiness. We're supporting ourselves by pasturing sheep. We don't have to worry about the future. We'll get by without sheaves, without the sun, without the moon, without the 11 stars. He was a master in homiletics. And he writes, I'll just read to you what he writes. Not all of it came true. He writes, the Joseph of 5,662, and that's the equivalent of 1900. He's writing in the 1960s, instinctively sensed that the relative tranquility, peace, quiet, security in which his brethren lived, he was living in 1900 in Europe, it was relatively quiet, was only an illusion. The Joseph of 1900 saw in his dream, and behold, we were binding sheaves, that we would be enveloped by a new economic order. The lion's share of Jewry would be centered in the Western world, not in Eastern Europe. And society would be based on science, where the sun and the moon and the 11 stars will radiate scientific learning and technology, where every scientific discovery will be publicized in the newspapers as the greatest sensation, where all professions will be linked to higher education. The Joseph of 1900 unconsciously sensed that it was forbidden to rely on a continuation of the status quo, that great changes were about to occur in Jewish life, for which we would have to be prepared. He sensed the advent of an era where there would be no yeshivot in Eastern Europe and in Russia, in Brisk, in Vilna, in Minsk, when America would be turned into a place of Torah, and when Israel, the state of Israel, would become the core center of Torah. And then just a final piece of reading. Let us dispel an illusion, the Joseph Dreamer is saying. We cannot pin much hope on the diaspora. Assimilation grows daily. I would say too, anti-Semitism is growing daily. Even in those circles which logically should be immune, like a fortress wall standing fast to make sure that the Jewish people are secure, that too one day will be lost. True, there is a bit of Torah in the diaspora. However, the number of Torah students, even in America, is proportionally very low, and it's impossible to forecast what will happen to succeeding generation. Though actually there's a very strong number of yeshiva students in America, but it doesn't come close to what's in America. We are in a small ship that maneuvers slowly, he writes, and clumsily in a stormy sea. Whereas in that very non-observant Israel, the future of Torah and traditional Judaism is far more secure. What he was saying is that he was speaking to the right-wing rabbis who were very anti-Zionist. They were anti-America. Stay where you are, because if you're going to push, we're going to even lose what we have. And Joseph said, we better prepare for a new day, a day in the West in America, and a day of Zionism. That is what Rabbi Soloveitchik contrasts Joseph and his brethren. Joseph was the one who dreams of a new world. We're not shepherds. It was like he was inventing the wheel. We are binding sheets. He didn't just dream of terrestrial images of the earth. He was dreaming celestially. He was dreaming of heavenly reaches. Where the one agrees with the Rav, his writing is eloquent. Not that all that he forecasted came true. A lot of what he forecasted didn't come true, but he's right. And I dare say that I think in America these days, I'll say it straight, with all that's unfolding in America, I don't know what the future will bring 50 years from now, 100 years from now. Who knows whether the dream of the American democracy, the jury is out as to what will be. And I would argue the jury is out in terms of the future of Judaism in America on all levels, as anti-Semitism is spiraling and it almost has become the norm. And even as outside of the Orthodox community, we're reading every day about the struggles in a community that I bless they should succeed in turning it around. The hetero, the conservative, and our sisters and brothers in those communities. So the Joseph was saying, prepare for the new day. So let me hear what you think, what your feelings are about this. Any thoughts? We have like just 3 or 4 minutes. So just to summarize, we looked at dreams as being prophetic. We looked at dreams as being revelatory in the sense that it reveals our inner self. And then we view dreams as being psychological. There's a dreamer who dreams of the new day, and there's a dreamer who's always worried, Gewalt, am I going to be able to hold on to what I have? And I think part of living is, if I'm only remembering the past is very important, but it's also important to remember the future. I know it sounds like an oxymoron. How do you remember the future? But in the prayer we say on Rosh Chodesh, Yalev V'Yavo, we say, Yalev V'Yavo V'Yagia V'Yero'eh Zichronenu V'Fikdonenu V'Zichron Avotenu. May we have memories of Zichron Moshiach ben David Abdecha. May we remember the Messiah. Really, the Messiah is not yet come. There's such a thing as memory of the future, dreaming of the future. Yes, Natalie.
We have lifted the symbolism of the dream to a very high level. But I think Torah shows him as a youngster who's been bullied and who's been made fun of, and he's in his dream, he's getting back at them.
Yes. Natalie, there's no way to look, one way to look at this. And I would argue, Natalie, that you are absolutely correct. And they say, Ein mikra yotzei midei pshuto. You got to look at the literal meaning, and absolutely. But beautiful texts are a text that can be interpreted.
Yes,
different ways.
I agree.
And that's what he's doing.
Yes,
He's trying to interpret it in a flowery way
yes,
as only he could interpret it. But I think it's a message to us that Joseph Dream resonates, that if all my life is, I'm worried today about holding on to what I have, and I'm not looking forward to the future, something is remiss.
all well and good, Rabbi. All well and good.
Yeah. Well, Natalie, you are the symbol. You are the person who, thank God, God has given you years and many, many more years to come. I shared with you the other day, Natalie, that there was a woman, 105 years old, who ran the 100-meter dash. And you told me you actually saw that on TV.
Yes, I did. Yes. Not for me, Rabbi.
Right. Well, you run the 100-meter dash in many different ways, Natalie. That is for sure. Anybody? This is really, I must say,
Bev's
none
hand
of
is up, Rabbi.
none of this is mine, so I can say this is beautiful stuff. It really-
Rabbi, I think Bev's hand is up.
Yes, Bev. Bev,
She's trying to unmute.
okay, and I know Ezra's getting on, so Bev, you have the last word.
I just like to say that in our time, and there are visionaries, we don't call them prophets, but they see the future in many different ways, evaluating the situation as it is now. Of course, to see that Joseph will see people farming, agriculture, being stable to the ground, not wanderers with sheep, but able to hold a territory, that was visionary for him.
Yes, it was.
And for us, we have to include climate change, what we're doing to the world, to see what the vision will be. Overpopulation, despoilization of. We have to see the visionaries of today have a different look, a different thing to look forward to. And so we need to recognize those people who are looking towards the future, and the problems are global. They're not like Joseph's problems, which were tribal, but global. And that's a much better, bigger challenge.
Yes, I appreciate it. And you know, I want to work on a piece, Julie, and the piece is going to be, I love Israel, not despite the fact that I'm a progressive. I love Israel because I'm a progressive. And that touches a little bit on what you're saying, because Israel has really been out there. And I just want to conclude with a little nigun in memory of Eliyahu David K. This is a new guitar that my dear friend Shimmy bought for me. It's too much. It's a very expensive guitar. So I said, Shani, this is going to cost me because with this guitar, I have to finally take guitar lessons. But this is a prayer in his memory. He loved Israel. He was in Samkhan. But he had a universal quest for peace and justice. So this is a little nigun I wrote. Higi lecha Adam ma tov u'ma Hashem doresh mimcham da di da dam da di da dam da di da dam da 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 dum. Do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with the Lord. Do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with the Lord. Die, 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 die. Go in peace, dear Elia. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. And Ezra is going to give the second shiur. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Oh, my love, everyone. A wonderful
Shalom.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Invest and appreciate
Thank
all
you,
we have.
Rabbi.
God bless you, everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. We'll give everyone a few minutes to stretch, grab a drink, take care of any needs. We'll start at 11:28. And thanks for those who are staying from the class or those who just came on. I'm looking forward to learning together.
Ezra, my kids are still here, and you've got to catch me up when I see you next week, okay?
Sounds good. Sounds good, Estelle.
On the things that I'm missing.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
All right. Bye.
Bye. We'll miss you. Have fun.
Thanks. I don't know. I never seem to be hungry in the morning.
Mother, you want what?
I never seem to be hungry in the morning.
Oh, you don't have to eat. It's not morning. It's normal already.
Yes, dear. Yes, dear.